Hey folks, this is the Lincoln Natural Climate Solutions team. We focused on natural carbon sequestration and the forecasting and planning of that. It was Emma, Noah, Jenna, and Jaden. So a little bit of why we chose this project. Some of the problems we were addressing is the city of Lincoln needs to develop a solution-based alternative to solving the emerald ash borer crisis in order to protect and actively replace trees across the city. The city of Lincoln also should redesign and improve outdoor community spaces with natural climate solutions in order to balance carbon cycles and promote natural sustainability. And then lastly, the city of Lincoln should implement a 2-for-1 plan where each tree that is removed due to urban development is then replaced by 2 being planted because a balance of natural decarbonization is needed. Our goal was to assist the city of Lincoln in developing a plan to positively progress the natural environment. And a couple of our objectives is increasing carbon sequestration on public land by 10% by 2030, and also implementing a cyclical biochar use plan, which involves tree waste being made into biochar for use in urban landscaping, including the planting of trees by 2030.
So biochar plays an important role in our project. So basically biochar is organic matter that's heated at heated to really high temperatures in a low oxygen environment until it basically becomes charcoal, but it has a really high carbon content. So it's great for sequestering carbon over a long period of time. It can stay in the soil for hundreds of years. And so basically how we're planning to use it in Lincoln is we're going to implement it within our 2-for-1 plan with the trees. So for example, in Stockholm, Sweden, they used biochar in the planting of street trees and increased the longevity of the trees. And so by using waste from trees, such as the ashes that died from the emerald ash borer crisis, we can turn those into biochar and then use that biochar in planting new trees. And so you can both sequester carbon through the trees themselves, but also the biochar that goes into the soil.
So how we made this happen, once we set our project goals and objectives, it was pretty easy from there. So we met with our client every week. That was Frank Ularic, and we also met with Tom from ICLEI to make sure that the data that we were giving was what the city needed. So in those Zoom meetings, we kind of just talked about what the city was looking for, how we can actually make this happen, both giving them the deliverables, but also thinking about what this project may mean for the city of Lincoln after the fact. We also wanted to get some hands-on experience with biochar. So as you can see in the picture on the left, a few of us went down to Prairie Pines Nature Center and actually worked on a biochar bagging event, learning how the biochar was actually made and composed, how it was transported, and how we plan on using it in the city of Lincoln. This was a really cool experience. We actually got to take some biochar home. As you can see in the picture there, they were giving out little sample bags, just to kind of get community involvement and knowledge on the rise there. We did a lot of research. Noah actually had an internship involving this in the past year. Noah and I had done some work on the emerald ash borer crisis in the past. So we all had a little bit of familiarity with this concept before we started. And from there, it was just a lot of research on what we could actually do in our local community. And then we also planned on using those deliverables. We wanted to give real data that the city could use. And this wasn't data that they had really had before. And we used the ICLEI Learn tool in order to do that. So on the next slide here, we'll kind of give you what we found out.
Yeah, so we used as Emma said, we used the ICLEI Learn tool to generate a baseline sequestration and also a projection of carbon sequestration. So the ICLEI Learn tool takes in a zip file that contains basically the % land cover for Lincoln, Nebraska, and it outputs basically an average annual carbon dioxide sequestration as a result of Lincoln's natural climate, which includes its trees, its prairies, and stuff like that. So as you can see, we have the first bar, which shows the baseline, so that's around 15,000 carbon dioxide sequestered per year. But we also created projections for if we increase tree cover by 10%, as well as if we increase tree cover by 30%. This was done by calculating the amount of acreage covered by trees in Lincoln, multiplying that by 110% and 130%, and then multiplying that number by its relative emission factor, which is also generated by the Learn tool. And so you can see the effect there. We also included the carbon sequestration that biochar would produce. And this would take out 146 tons of carbon dioxide out per year. We used the EPA website to kind of get like, what would this look like if we had a 30% increase in tree cover. This is equivalent to 87.2 gasoline-powered passenger vehicle driven for 1 year, as well as 262. Oh, so the first one is the 10% increase, and the second one is the 30% increase.
So the city of Lincoln was recently granted they recently were accepted for a grant in order to really start implementing the biochar initiative into the city of Lincoln. So we're super excited to see what they end up doing with this. There is a public forum if you're interested in June, where they're really going to dig into the details of what this is going to look like. This was a super exciting project to work on. So here's our sources. Thanks.